Grab your cup. I want to talk about the spectrum that can show up in relationships. So there's a whole spectrum of how people show up. On one end of the spectrum is codependency, being codependent in a relationship. On the opposite end of the spectrum is being very independent. Both ends of the spectrum are not the most powerful ways to be in a relationship, or powerful, the most enjoyable, the most satisfying, the most gratifying on either end. And then I'll talk about the middle. So on the end of the spectrum where there's codependency, that looks like someone who's very anxious in the relationship all the time, always worried about how the other person will respond, always needing their validation in order to think they're okay, always looking for how they are in order to then decide how we need to be, anxious in kind of like a neediness, like checking in all the time, or did they call yet? Are they going to call me today? Did they call, yesterday? Or if you're in a long-term relationship, oftentimes somebody who has the codependent traits is going to match themselves up with someone who has more dominating traits, more controlling traits, more narcissistic style traits. They're a match for each other. And then that codependent person is ignoring the toxicity of that because it's worth it to them for the safety of the relationship. It's worth it to them to get the validation for however long it's worth it. At some point, a lot of people decide it's not worth it. But when you're in that, it's a match because it feels like that's what you need because of the codependency. And the codependency comes from what we didn't get when we were learning about relationships, which is when we're very, very young, when we didn't get a strong sense of self, when we weren't taught how to find internal validation and how to look for it outside, and when we were always looking for, what do I need to do to get that person's approval? When we were little, now we're still doing that. So those are the ways that codependency can show up, and that's where it comes from. Okay? It's got an energy behind it of a little bit of like a damsel in distress. I can't do my life without this person, even though there's things that I don't like about this, even though I'm shoving down feelings that this isn't right for me, I can't be without it, so I stay. Like a damsel in distress, okay? The opposite end of the spectrum is very independent. And a lot of people pride themselves on being very independent. And I got it. I handle things. No, I'm good. If they're not in a relationship, they may say, it's fine. I don't really need a relationship because I do it all myself anyway, right? So that independence, that has an energy behind it of like a lone wolf in life. I handle stuff myself. I get it done. I'm the resilient one. I've been through a ton of shit and I can do it, right? And then that person, that's a very sort of distant kind of attachment style, a distant way of being. That person is going to attract another person who's also very distant a lot of the time because they're used to just kind of being in their own orbits, maybe paying for a household together, maybe, paralleling their lives and how they raise their children, but not really sharing like a team. Or that very independent person, if they have even some more dominating traits, might attract a codependent person who is looking for the strength of that. But the strength of that independence, that lone wolf energy, that ends up causing resentment, like I do everything myself. The world is on my shoulders. I have to do it all alone. So it kind of drives a little bit of an ice queen feeling to it because now I'm resentful, I'm doing it all alone, I'm the lone wolf, I'm not accepting partnership, I'm not looking for help, and now I've got like my wall up because I have to do it all myself anyway, okay? So those are the two ends of the spectrum. In the middle is the sweet spot, I think is the sweet spot of how it really feels good and satisfying and gratifying to be sharing life. I believe that we are here to be social. We are here to learn and grow from each other. We are here to develop our best selves and to share life with someone who's doing their best self, and then bring both of the best of us to the picture. So that means I trust myself, not codependent. I validate myself, not codependent. I acknowledge my strengths and know that I can do things, not codependent. It means I accept partnership with open curiosity. Yeah, let me hear what you have to say, not independent. It means bringing the walls down and sharing your heart unguardedly, not independent. It means embracing the strengths of the other person without judging and without holding the resentment of what we have to do, not independent. Okay? So when we get ourselves there, and it just, the work that I do with my clients, a lot of people show up on both ends of the spectrum, have been in codependent relationships, know that that's how they are. They're either post-divorce, or they've had a cycle of relationships, or they know that relationships don't work because they keep themselves very separate. I have tended to be, and I've worked on this, to be very independent. I got it, I can do it, I'm used to doing it, I'm good. I'll work 4 jobs and then I'll be mad at you because I'm so exhausted. I've been there. So the sweet spot of releasing those patterns, those ways of attaching or avoiding attachment, is going to have us attract other people who are also in that sweet spot, other people who are clear about who they are, don't feel the need to dominate others, aren't looking to be in power, but are looking to share their strengths, to hold the space for someone else's needs and weaknesses and hold the space without judging, and then to create life, bringing the best of both of them to the table, the best of both of us. So that's the sweet spot. And if you've been in relationships where you know you hang out on either end of the spectrum and that hasn't worked for you, I'm guessing, so much, or it leaves us feeling really unfulfilled, unconnected, needy and unsure, all the things, then reach out to me, because that's a lot of what we do when we unravel those early experiences. You could say trauma. It's trauma responses because we weren't getting what we needed, or we just had the feeling that we had to always put someone else's needs first. We just had the feeling that we were abandoned, we weren't taken care of, so we figured it out ourselves. Whatever it is, when we heal that, now we can get ourselves to the sweet spot. So that's what we do. Drop me a message if that sounds like you, okay? Have a great day.